All right, so we are here with Tips and Tea with Synchronicity, and I am so excited to be sitting down with the CEO of McLean Marketing and the creative mind behind the marketing efforts of Synchronicity. Welcome, Laura. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing really well. It's been a busy week, so it's nice to be able to sit down and chat.
Yes, and spill the tea with us. So let's jump right in. Talk to us a little bit about what made you decide to create McLean Marketing. Where did that?
Yeah. So it kind of honestly, I would say it started from my childhood. I've been surrounded by entrepreneurs my entire life, and I was always interested in that. And I felt whenever even I was in like elementary school, I always had this kind of creative brain.
Yeah.
And so I would be like, taking over the projects at school, designing the posters. And I always had this interest, and I felt like there was something bigger for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
And
that's
so I used kind of what I learned. And it was interesting because, when you're young, you have no idea what you want to do with the rest of your life. So I went through high school, still kind of like, I don't know. And then I ended up going to the University of Toronto, and I actually studied political science. So the complete opposite
polar
of what
opposite.
I ended up doing. But I always knew, like, I've always been kind of one of those people that, like, you like a million different things.
Yeah,
And so I was interested in law, and then I was interested in business, and I was like, maybe political science is a good gateway. But what really sparked starting this business was when I graduated in March of 2020. So right into the middle of, the beginning actually of COVID.
yes.
And I ended up kind of thinking, like, what am I going to do now? Because this kind of changed the course of what I was interested in and what I was trying to pursue at the time. And so I started taking jobs in marketing and social media marketing. And I was like, oh, I love this. And it wasn't until I worked with a specific woman, and she was doing like automotive marketing, and I loved it. And so I thought, why can't I do this for myself? So, after it was like a contract base. So once that contract was up, I was like, I'm going to start the same kind of thing.
Oh,
And but I wasn't just going to kind of center myself around automotive. I was going to go beyond that. And so that's when I really started my business, I'd say about 2 years ago now, like around 2 years ago. And
wow.
then I started building it because I guess when you really are interested in it, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. So yeah.
Yeah. Look at you creating your reality.
Yeah,
That's amazing. That is so
exactly.
amazing, right? And it just shows how when we're open to different things, the trajectory changes, but it works out in the end. So
For
tell us
sure.
about your business. Tell us about McLean Marketing.
Yeah. So when I started it, I was like, how can I help small business owners? Because as a small business owner myself, I thought that that was kind of the route I wanted to go. And, they always say to you, like, niche down, like, find your specific, target audience and just go at them. And so I, being myself, who has like a million different interests, I thought maybe if I just focus on small businesses, that's enough of a niche where I can still help different kinds of business owners. And so I currently am working with about 8 clients, from construction to therapy to life coaches. I even work with a fake food company who sells to like Netflix and like movie sets. So I get to create their content and learn about the business while I'm doing it, and just the field overall. So it'll be, like, I'll sit down, we'll have a conversation, maybe we'll go emails back and forth, and then I'll just start creating content through research and through what they've told me. And then obviously I manage their accounts while I do that, which makes it kind of fun too, because then it kind of takes the pressure off of them, to have to deal with
Yeah.
that, especially when you're running a business. The
Yes.
last thing you want to do now is social media.
Yes.
And even if people think that they want to do it themselves, I find they end up being like, this is just too much. Like, I don't want to do it.
Yes. Yes. Too much. Too much.
Yeah.
Too toxic. Too all of the tools that you can think of before you put it
Exactly.
on social media. So it definitely takes a lot of the pressure off to have somebody who can manage it, and that is their day to day to kind of like manage
Exactly.
and create your content. So amazing, definitely
Exactly.
amazing. How
Yeah.
does it feel to be the magic behind the creative process? What is that like for you?
It feels amazing, especially because, like, as I was saying, like, from a young age, I've always felt this creativity that I've, like, wanted to unleash, basically.
Yeah.
And, so to be able to do it for other people and not just myself is, like, really rewarding because I don't know, like, you get to showcase your talent, and then you get to also, like, go back and forth with the business owner, and you get to learn about them because it's like, for example, if I sent you something and then you were like, "Oh, I like this, but I would like to tweak and add this," like, you start to learn about what other people liked as well and how their creative brain is, like, flowing. So it's kind of like, even though I'm handling the creative process in a sense, I still get to be creative with the business owner as well. So that's what I love about it. Um, yeah, it's really, really nice to be
Yeah.
able to handle all these different tasks and edit videos and static posts and all kinds of things.
It sounds like it. Sounds exciting. Tell us about, what does a day in McLean marketing usually look like? How do you
Yeah.
structure your day?
So it's kind of funny because I always will watch like YouTube videos about, a day in the life of this person, a day in the life of a social media manager. And some people will try to make it look like the most glamorous thing ever. And in a way, it is, like, in the sense of, like, you can kind of work around your own schedule as long as you meet those deadlines and expectations. And, you can be able to get creative, like, especially myself, like, if I don't have like a boss or something kind of hovering over me, like, I'm able to like sit down and really get into it. But a lot of the time it's literally me at my desk here, working hours on end. And it also means that I'm working late into the night some nights, I'm working early mornings, and it's like, you're always kind of working.
Yeah.
So like it's really like I love it at the same time. And I'm kind of more of like a slower paced person anyways, so like I get hyper and into it, but at the same time I like being able to like sit down and get really, really focused
Yeah.
without, the distractions, I guess, of having like a bunch of people like around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And so managing so many different projects, you said that you love it. Why? Why do you love your work?
I think because I'm able to help other business owners, like, just almost like I find I always whenever I'm talking to, like, a lot of my clients, they'll be like, "I have this creative vision and I know what it wants to look like, but I'm having trouble, like, putting those ideas to the graphics or to the videos." So I love being able to, like, sit down and, like, chit chat with them back and forth, send emails back and forth, and then put those thoughts into action. And I love seeing the results of it. So, like, when I send, you know, the weekly content back to a client and then they're going like, "Oh my goodness, like, this is exactly what I wanted." That to me is the best feeling because I love the creative side of it. So I love being able to bring people's, visions to life and videos, and just like, if they send me a video of them talking, like, how can I edit it to be fun and engaging? So that's what I'd say I love the most about it. And just honestly being able to meet so many people, um, and learning about their stories and their goals for their business and why they love doing what they do. Because then it motivates me to like create the best content for them too.
Yeah. And that's what you do, create the best content, right? Amazing. And so, Laura, being a business owner is stressful. It's difficult. How do you manage that? How do you manage your stress?
Yeah. So sometimes, like, if I'm being completely honest, which I think is like the best thing to do, there's some days where, you may think to yourself, like, how can I even like deal with all of this at once? And especially because my mind, like I said kind of before, like my mind's always going. So it's like even when I'm lying in bed at night, I'll be like thinking about like how I can create like this post for a client. The next, you see me like getting up out of bed and like writing it all down so I don't forget it for the morning.
Right. Right.
So it's for me, it's like managing stress is also managing my time. And I find they're very kind of linked together. So I try to find ways to take some time out of the day to just do something that's for myself, like whether it's, having a bath or taking my dog for a walk, like anything where I can like step away from the desk and just like almost have that creative juices flowing without being like super stressed is ideal. Because it's easy as a business owner, I feel like, to get kind of caught up in your own mind and like imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're sitting there going like, was this even good what I just sent? And like having like a panic. And then the person's like, oh, I liked it. So it's kind of second guessing yourself and finding ways to step out of that. So for me, it's definitely the self-care, and challenging myself actually helps a lot, which is interesting. It's kind of getting out of my comfort zone. Because sometimes I find too, like my stress can be linked to if I feel stagnant. So if I'm feeling like maybe I didn't accomplish too much today or something like that, then I start to get even more stressed. So then I'll be like working all night long to try to make up for it. So I try to find ways to challenge myself and do something maybe that I wouldn't have done the day before, while still, taking time out and saying, hey, it's okay to relax for a second. Like, you're okay.
Yeah.
You'll
Give
be
me
fine.
permission to relax, right? Really good stuff. Have you ever utilized anything like meditation or mindfulness just to help you get through some of those work anxieties that you mentioned?
I have. So it's actually very interesting. I have always been a very anxious person, like my entire life. And I actually went through a period of time, I think when I was in high school, where I was actually out of school for 3 months total because I was dealing with this anxiety. And it was like, it almost came on, and it was the weirdest thing ever because, when something comes on that's new and it's a new feeling, you have trouble almost like coping. Because when you're able to sit down with like a therapist and come up with those coping mechanisms, like I lacked that at the time. And so I always was like trying to find ways to cope kind of by myself, which is never like the best thing. Like, it's always good to go to someone else. But I think being young and kind of like unsure of exactly what it was and not understanding even anxiety at the time, I kind of just bottled it up and tried to cope. So starting then, kind of that mindfulness and meditation became really important to me. And it could be anything from like sitting down and just like deep breathing to kind of practicing that gratitude and like writing down what you're thankful for. I find yoga really helps because it's kind of all intertwined. So it's funny because whatever I learned then, I still do now because I'm still anxious, but that degree of to like, I couldn't leave my house, I can do now and like feel great about it. Cause I'm actually a very outgoing person, but it was like, that's why I think it felt kind of weird to go through that. And I think now when you're working from home and you're inside a lot, it's good to practice these meditations so that when I go out, I'm like feeling energized and like ready to take on the day. So meditation has become like a really helpful tool in my life. And I try to do it as much as possible, and make it part of my daily routine because I feel like if I don't, that's when I'm in a very heightened kind of state. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That
No
was really,
problem.
really good. So, how often would you say that you meditate? How much time do you invest in your practice
Yeah.
to manage your wellness?
Yeah. So ideally I would take like an hour or two out of the day, but I would say it's more like 30 minutes kind of daily. And for me, it's like great to unplug. So if at the end of the day, I just go, you know what, like I'm going to put my phone down and I'm going to sit there, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to journal, I'm going to do something that's not me on a device. Because like if you're like me too, like I have my Gmail and everything set up right to my phone. So I'll be like going to bed at night and it'll be like ding, and then I'll wake up and I'll be answering like clients at like 11 o'clock at night. So it's taking that time to be like, this can wait until tomorrow probably. So take that 30 minutes for yourself and just like go through the day and think of what have you accomplished, like what are you proud of, and not so much looking at, the negatives. of the day, because it's easy for me to do that too, because I'm one of those types of people. But it's just focusing on like almost like what you're lucky to have. And I saw a video about this the other day, and it really like resonated with me. It was like, say like whenever something even small happens that you're grateful for, say to yourself like, why am I so lucky like for this to happen to me? Like this is such luck. And then you almost attract that luck into
Mhm.
your life. So it's like a little bit of like a manifestation.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I
So
love it. You are definitely bowling down my aisle. Talking about- I love it, right?
exactly. It's being
So
positive, you know?
yeah, the stress reduction techniques that you identify are definitely marvelous, right? How effective have they been for you? How effective have they been with managing anxiety and promoting wellness in your own life? What would you
Yeah.
say?
I think they've helped a lot actually. Especially when I take that time to like kind of unplug from the technology and like just focus on myself. Like, what do you want to accomplish? What are your goals? Like, what have you achieved that you're grateful for? Like, who around you are you grateful for? So you're taking time out of your day to like actually appreciate what's around you, which I think actually helps me overall, because if I don't, I might just sit there in the day and be like, ugh, like I wish I had done this and I wish I could do this. And it ends up putting you into that negative state. So I find it's a way to uplift me. And like obviously like everyone else, there's days where um if I don't practice, that mindful kind of meditation, I might sit there kind of in that negative zone. So I really try to get out of that as much as possible, so that most days in the week I'm like, energized. And I find what really helps me is like when I do this at night, because the next morning I wake up refreshed and kind of ready to take on the day and ready to take on anything that I left from the day before, without kind of procrastinating. Because I find if I procrastinate with my self-care, then I
Yeah.
procrastinate with my work as well.
So you would say that self-care is kind of like the nucleus or the core
Yeah.
of you getting everything else around you completed.
For
Mm,
sure. Because I
really?
feel like if I do it like I've noticed that, because I've never really like said it, but I feel that. Because I find if it's like if you go to bed with that negativity, you wake up with the negativity and you're already waking up kind of like, I feel like I've ruined, my Sunday, for example, because my Saturday night I sat there kind of negative. So if
Yeah.
I can like kind of almost like rejuvenate myself and feel better from the night before, then the next day I wake up and you go, even if it was something bad that happened, you just go, okay, that wasn't the best. So how can I make this better today without going into a panic,
Yeah.
into like a proper like panic about it. So that's what I try to do, just to kind of feel better and just put those kind of things that are in my brain into action. So
Good. Good stuff. And so, what if someone came to you and they said, I'm really stressed, I'm really anxious, I'm trying to manage all of these tasks.
yeah.
What should I do? What advice would you give to a fellow business owner that is trying to manage so many different deadlines and activities and their stress level is through the roof? What would you
Yeah.
say?
So I am the type of person where, that kind of used to be me. Like I used to be the person that would just try to like juggle a million things at once, and then I would never have it organized. And so I've obviously becoming a business owner, I've really had to hone in on that. So I find, especially because like I said before, like when I have like over 7 clients, you have a lot of different tasks on the go each week. So I like to really like prioritize. And I like to set like almost like the SMART goals in a sense, but I like to set goals that are completely attainable, so that you don't stress yourself out. So I might say, for one example, to you as my client, I have this great idea I want to create for you. I'll have that to you by Friday. And then my next client, I might say, I'll have this to you by end of day today. The next one, I might say, I'll have it by Wednesday. So I'm setting deadlines in my head, but I'm also allowing like, to this afternoon will be for this one client. This afternoon will be for this one client. This morning will be for this client. And then that way you're never overwhelmed trying to juggle a million tasks at once, especially because, like I said, like I don't have that specific niche of like, I only work with like coaches or something like that. So I have to think about what's happening in the construction world, what's happening in the real estate world, what's happening in the coaches world. So by prioritizing these things and spreading them out, I'm able to like sit down and be like, okay, today is about construction, tomorrow's about therapy, the next day is about the fake food, you
Mhm.
know? And then that way you're never too overwhelmed. And I also find like writing things down helps a lot too, because like I said, like my brain's always going a mile a minute. And sometimes I'll have this like, I feel like genius idea and I'll be like so hyper focused on it. And then by the time I'm sitting down at my desk, I'm like, what was I thinking about? Because I'm moving on to the next thing. So I like to write everything down in a little notebook, kind of my plans for the day or what any like new little creative ideas that I have, so that even if I don't get to that task, it's written down. So it's like if I get to it on Monday, for example, it's still there. I know exactly what I want to do for it. And then that way too, like the time goes by faster because you already know what you want to do for something. So when you go in, you can create it a bit faster without being too overwhelmed. So that's kind of how I would, offer advice to someone else, is maybe try writing things down. Um, if you get that creative brain flowing, maybe get up and write that down too. And yeah, just prioritizing what's most needed. So like if there's an upcoming sale for a brand, maybe prioritize that over like a freebie you're creating for a client that really could wait like 6 days kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So
So what I'm hearing is time management, prioritizing, and setting goals.
yes, for sure.
Perfect.
Time
Perfect.
management is probably the biggest one. And honestly, this is another piece of advice I would offer, but keep your workspace as minimalist as you can. I've found like my brain goes a mile a minute when I have like clutter everywhere.
Yeah.
And not everyone's like that, but I feel like a lot of people, they might actually see a shift when they remove some of these things like off their desk, or like, because it's almost like decluttering your life, like decluttering your mind and all of that. So I recommend doing that, because like the other day my stuff was kind of starting to get all over the place, and I cleaned and my stress levels were like completely going down. So I thought, okay, like maybe I need to like make things more minimalized around here.
Yeah, decluttering your space is like decluttering your mind, kind of
Yes.
reinventing your space
Yep.
so you can allow that creative juice to flow and just feel good, right?
Exactly.
And don't be like, oh,
Exactly.
everything is everywhere. So, yeah.
Exactly.
What else? What else would you like to share with us? How can someone find you if they want social media management? What else would you like to share?
Yeah. So I'm all over the place actually. Like I'm on a million different social media apps. Primarily Instagram. I'm on TikTok and Facebook under McLean Marketing. I'm just about to get back on YouTube. That's another thing I've been putting off, but I want to get myself back on there. Because I think it's good. I feel like as a social media manager, you should try to be on as many places as you can without going too crazy with it, but just to kind of build up that, clientele. And my website is McLean Marketing, mgmt.com. And you can kind of look at my portfolios there. You can see some of the clients that I'm working with and see if it's of interest to you. And you can even get like a quote, because some people, like they don't want the whole package. Like they might just want something smaller. So you can find me there. And honestly, on Alignable, I'm pretty much everywhere. And I'm always like wanting to give out free advice too. So I put a lot of tips online, which I'm trying to do on YouTube. I think that's why I'm trying to get back on there. But yeah, you can find me there. You can find me all over.
All over the place. And I will make sure that we pin your information right under your video. This has been amazing. You have shared your tips and your tea right here with Synchronicity. It is always a great day to have
Yeah.
Synchronicity. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story and how you manage your stress being a female CEO. Until next time, my wish for you, my goal for you is to be brave, be magical, and above all else, be well. Take care.
Bye.
Okay.